The average middle-class family will spend nearly $250,000 to raise a child that was born in 2013. Ron Lieber's new book, The Opposite of Spoiled, offers advice on helping kids develop responsible money habits. His companion article is one of the most emailed stories this morning on the New York Times website. A lot of people talking about this, and Ron Lieber joins us at the table to talk about it with us. Good to see you, Ron.
Good morning.
So, I was raised in one of those houses where I was told it was impolite and too personal to discuss money in your own house, and certainly not to talk about what's going on in other people's houses. And you say, nope, you should have a frank conversation with your children.
Yes, you should, for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's a direct connection between talking about money and teaching kids values. A lot of what we spend or what we give away says a fair bit about what we stand for. But we're also in a situation now where 16 and 17-year-olds are participating in six-figure decisions about college and student loan debt. They have to be ready, and it's parents' job to make them ready.
If you talk to any parent, and you point this out in your book, one of the worst things that parents say is anybody say their child is spoiled. What are some of the warning signs that a child could be spoiled?
Well, I think one warning sign is that kids care more about possessions than they do about people. Yeah. So that's one thing to think about. Another is if parents are lavishing untold amounts of time and attention on kids, and if there are no rules or no expectations of following the rules and no consequences if the rules are broken.
You have some really helpful tips, though. You say you shouldn't pay for chores.
No, you should not pay for chores. I think allowance is a teaching tool. It stands on its own, like a book or other tools for learning. The problem with paying for chores is that at some point kids are going to say to you, you know, I don't really need the money right now, so I'm just not going to do the chores. Yeah. But, you know, at that time you pound both fists on the table and you say, no, you're going to do the chores anyway. Right. So then you've decoupled allowance and chores.
How do you tell them why it's important to do the chores other than because I said so?
Well, there are all sorts of privileges that we can take away other than the money that they get for allowance. There's all sorts of things that...
So it's punishment and incentive.
Sure, and there's nothing wrong with punishment as an incentive. There should be consequences for failing to fulfill your duties as a member of the family.
But I'm still asking the question of how do you get people to want to do it because you want them to want to do it, rather than simply you punish them if they don't do it.
Well, one of the things you can do is if there's multiple kids in the house, you can give them a choice of chores. So they try and find the things that they're best at, the things that are most fulfilling. But, you know, it's not always going to work that way. And sometimes you just do things because you have to. They don't have to like it, but they may have to do it because you're in charge.
I don't know. I found that because I said so was very effective in my house. There are no ifs, ands, and buts. You also talk about there's a difference between the conversation that parents have with boys and what they have with girls. I thought that was really fascinating.
Well, here's the problem, and as the father of a daughter, this burns me up. Girls end up growing up with different expectations and lesser expectations for what they will earn once they grow up, what their starting salaries will be, and what will happen to them afterwards. You know, it's not clear exactly why this is happening, but it's clear that parents are somehow talking to their girls differently than they're talking to their boys. I think sometimes if the girls don't ask, the parents don't think to bring it up because they're not curious. But that doesn't mean
they're talking to girls about giving, and they're talking to boys about investing.
There is some of that going on, right? And so, you know, maybe there's an assumption that girls are more generous, or they think that, you know, the girls are going to stay at home and be in charge of the charity budget. This is all foolishness. We need to make it stop.
You have a very, I think, useful conversation, because this comes up in my house. You know, people say, why don't we have a bigger house like so-and-so? Or why does so-and-so have this and get to do this and I don't? And you say a parent should respond to every question by saying, why do you ask? And I really like that.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, the point here, right, is not to...
And tell you, what is the point?
Right. I mean, the point is, you know, you don't want to make them feel bad for asking. Being curious is their job. So you don't want to respond with, why do you ask? Or it's none of your business, even worse, because we want them to see us as a source of valuable information. So encourage their curiosity. Sometimes the reason that they're asking has nothing to do with, say, wanting to know your salary or wanting to know how much the house costs. They just want to make sure that the family is okay.
Yeah. Do you think that parents should tell their kids how much they make?
I do think they should, but not right away. You know, there's a decade of learning that goes into this. They need to learn to handle money through allowance, ages, you know, 5 to 9. They need to learn how to spend money and keep a budget. They need to learn about the household budget, and they need to prove that they can keep private information private. Most kids aren't ready until at least 14 or 15.
Right, and as you say, they need to learn how to give, save, and spend. There's so much in this book, Ron. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And The Opposite Side of Spoiled goes on sale tomorrow.